Welcome to the home of forbidden love stories. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the story. Dawn light filtered through sheer curtains, painting their suburban home in soft gold. Ji-woo's delighted giggles echoed from the nursery, 18 months old and already running his parents ragged. Min-woo hummed at the kitchen counter, cracking eggs one-handed, the scar on his bare shoulder catching morning light like a badge of survival. His wedding ring glinted as he worked. Strong arms circled his waist. Ji-hoon's lips found the curve of his neck, stubble rough against sensitive skin. "Good morning, beautiful." "Careful," Min-woo smiled, leaning back into the embrace. "You'll make me burn breakfast." "I'll take that risk." Ji-hoon's hand splayed possessively over Min-woo's flat stomach. "Forever starts with mornings like this." Glass exploded inward. Min-woo's scream died as armed men flooded through shattered windows, tactical precision obliterating their peace in seconds. Ji-woo's terrified wails pierced the chaos. "Did you really think a cage could hold me?" Sung-joon stood in the doorway, face ravaged by prison scars, eyes burning with mad obsession. He'd aged decades in 1 year, broken, rebuilt into something monstrous. "No," Min-woo choked. "I'm taking back what's mine," Sung-joon advanced, gun raised. "My son, my revenge, and your life, Min-woo." Ji-hoon moved to shield his Omega, but rough hands yanked him back. A needle punctured Min-woo's neck, paralytic flooding his system, legs buckling. Sung-joon caught him, almost tender. 72 hours, Ji-hoon. Surrender your empire, or I carve the baby out of your Omega's belly. His smile twisted cruel. "Oh, didn't he tell you? He's pregnant again. And this one? Actually yours." Ji-hoon's face drained white. "What?" Darkness claimed Min-woo as Sung-joon's laughter echoed. "Some debts are paid in blood."
If you're just joining us, subscribe to the channel for more interesting boys' love story. Here's what you need to know.
6 months had softened the edges of their trauma. The penthouse had been sold, too many ghosts, replaced by a modest 2-story home in a quiet Seoul suburb where neighbors didn't ask questions and security was invisible but omnipresent. Ji-woo sat on the living room carpet, chunky toddler hands stacking colorful blocks with intense concentration. 18 months old and already showing his alpha father's stubborn determination. When the tower collapsed, he giggled instead of crying, immediately starting over. Min-woo watched from the couch, barefoot in soft pajama pants and one of Ji-hoon's oversized shirts, hand unconsciously resting on his flat stomach. The gesture had become habit over the past 2 weeks, protective, secretive, terrified and thrilled in equal measure. "Coffee." Ji-hoon emerged from his home office, laptop abandoned, hair slightly disheveled from running his hands through it during conference calls. "Decaf," Min-woo said quickly. Too quickly. Ji-hoon's eyebrow arched, but he didn't comment, settling beside his Omega and pulling him close. "I was thinking," he murmured against Min-woo's temple. "Maybe it's time we discussed expanding our family. Properly this time. Planned. When you're ready." Min-woo's heart hammered. "Yeah. A little girl maybe. Someone for Ji-woo to protect." Ji-hoon's smile was soft, unguarded. The expression he were only here, only with them. "What do you think?" "I think," Min-woo started, the secret burning on his tongue. The memory interrupted, sharp and vivid. 2 weeks ago. Bathroom tiles cold under his knees. 3 pregnancy tests lined up on the counter, all showing the same result. Min-woo had stared at those positive lines until his vision blurred, emotions warring. Joy. This baby was planned in his heart if not in timing, conceived in love and healing. Terror. The ghost of Sung-joon's threats still haunted his nightmares. What if something went wrong again? What if Ji-hoon wasn't ready? What if? He decided on a surprise. Tonight. Dinner reservations at the restaurant where Ji-hoon had first told him, "I love you," after everything. The pregnancy test wrapped in blue paper, hidden in his nightstand. Tonight. He just needed to wait until tonight. "I think," Min-woo whispered now, leaning into Ji-hoon's warmth. "That sounds perfect." The explosion of shattering glass ended perfection. 7 a.m. The assault was surgical. Ji-hoon's security team, 3 ex-military guards stationed around the property, died before they could trigger alarms. Armed men in black tactical gear flooded through every entrance simultaneously. Windows exploded inward. The front door splintered off its hinges. Ji-woo screamed. Min-woo lunged for his son, but rough hands seized him from behind. Ji-hoon moved with alpha speed, tackling one attacker, but a rifle butt to his temple sent him crashing into the coffee table. "Ji-hoon!" Min-woo's shriek died as a massive hand clamped over his mouth. The wheelchair rolled through the ruined doorway with incongruous calm. Sung-joon looked like something excavated from hell. Prison had carved his handsome features into gaunt angles, face mapped with scars from beatings, some surgical, most earned through violence. His legs, shattered by Ji-hoon a year ago, rested useless in the chair. But his hands gripped a pistol with steady precision, and his eyes burned with the calculated madness of a man who'd had nothing but time to plan revenge. "Did you really think a cage could hold me?" His voice was ragged, damaged vocal cords from a failed hanging attempt. Appeal approved last week. Evidence tampering by overzealous prosecutors. Technicality, but I'm a free man. His smile was a wound. And I'm owed compensation for wrongful imprisonment. "Get out," Ji-hoon snarled, blood streaming from his temple, struggling to his feet. "Now or what? You'll break my legs again." Sung-joon laughed, the sound shredded and wrong. "Already done, Ji-hoon. But I learned patience in that cell. Learned planning. Learned exactly how to hurt you." He gestured. Two men grabbed the screaming Ji-woo from his playpen. "No, please," Min-woo thrashed against his captor, terror flooding his veins. "My son," Sung-joon said softly, almost tenderly, as Ji-woo was brought to him. 18 months, and you've poisoned him against me. That ends today." "He's not yours," Ji-hoon growled, alpha pheromones flooding the room with rage. "He'll never be yours. Blood says otherwise." Sung-joon's attention shifted to Min-woo, eyes narrowing with predatory focus. "You look pale, Min-woo. Nauseous. I recognize that glow." He wheeled closer. "Someone bring me a pregnancy test. Now." "No," Min-woo choked, but the needle was already piercing his neck. Paralytic spread like ice through his muscles, legs giving out. The test was administered with clinical efficiency. 3 minutes of nightmarish silence while Sung-joon held the stick, watching it develop, smile growing wider and more deranged. "Positive." He showed it to Ji-hoon like a trophy. "Finally. Your actual heir, Ji-hoon. The legitimate Kim bloodline." His laughter echoed off broken walls. Perfect leverage. Ji-hoon's face drained of all color. "What? 72 hours, Sung-joon declared, tucking the test into his jacket pocket like evidence. "Sign over the Kim syndicate, every territory, every asset, everything. Or I carve this baby out of your Omega's belly and raise both children as mine while you watch." He leaned forward. "Choose your empire or your family. You can't have both." The paralytic had Min-woo completely now. He couldn't scream as they lifted him, couldn't fight as Ji-woo's terrified wails filled his ears, couldn't do anything but meet Ji-hoon's eyes one last time. Desperate, apologetic, terrified. "I'm sorry," Min-woo mouthed. "I was going to tell you tonight." Then darkness swallowed him. For minutes. The entire assault took 4 minutes. Ji-hoon knelt in the wreckage of their home, surrounded by dead guards and shattered glass, holding a positive pregnancy test in trembling hands. The rage in his chest was a living thing, clawing to get out. But beneath it, colder and more devastating, was terror. His Omega. His son. His unborn child. Gone. And he had 72 hours to get them back. The emergency call went out at 7:15. By 7:30, what remained of Ji-hoon's inner circle had assembled in the war room beneath his corporate headquarters. A reinforced bunker designed for exactly this kind of crisis. Except the crisis was worse than anyone had anticipated. "Half our captains are dead," his second-in-command reported, face ashen. Coordinated strikes across Seoul. Car bombs, sniper fire, executions in their homes. Sung-joon didn't just escape. He planned a goddamn coup. Ji-hoon stood at the head of the table, temple bandaged, knuckles white as he gripped the edge. The pregnancy test sat in front of him like an accusation. 8 weeks. Min-woo had been carrying his child for 8 weeks, and Ji-hoon had been too consumed with empire maintenance to notice. How many loyal? Ji-hoon's voice was dead calm, the kind of calm that preceded massacres. 60%. Maybe less if this drags out. The laptop chimed. Incoming video file, sender unknown. Ji-hoon's hand trembled as he clicked play. The footage was grainy, shot in what looked like an abandoned warehouse. Concrete walls. Single harsh light. And there, bound to a metal chair with zip ties cutting into his wrists, was Min-woo. He looked so small. Dressed in the same pajamas from this morning. One shoulder bare where the shirt had slipped, scar visible like a roadmap of past horrors. His face was tear-streaked, eyes red-rimmed but defiant. And there, subtle but undeniable to someone who knew his body intimately, the slight swell of early pregnancy pushing against thin fabric. 8 weeks. just beginning to show. Sungjoon's wheelchair rolled into frame. His scarred hand reached out, caressing Minwoo's stomach with possessive tenderness that made Ji-hoon's vision go red. "Hello, Ji-hoon." Sungjoon's ruined voice was almost pleasant. "Let's discuss terms. 72 hours from now, that's Sunday at 7 a.m., you will sign over the Kim Syndicate. The ports, the territories, the accounts, everything. You'll walk away with nothing but your life." He leaned closer to Minwoo, lips nearly brushing his ear. "Or I perform an amateur C-section on camera and raise both children as mine. I've watched enough medical videos. How hard can it be?" Minwoo flinched, fresh tears spilling. "Appa! Appa!" Ji-woo's wails pierced the audio before the toddler was carried on screen by a masked guard. Ji-hoon's chest cracked open. His son, their son, face blotchy from crying, reaching desperately toward the camera as if he could somehow reach through it to safety. Sungjoon took Ji-woo with disturbing gentleness, settling the 18-month-old on his lap despite the wheelchair's awkwardness. There. My blood runs in you, little one. Time you knew your real father." "No," Minwoo choked. "Ji-woo, baby, it's okay. Don't give him anything." Minwoo's voice cracked with desperation, eyes boring into the camera, into Ji-hoon's soul. "Save yourself. The Empire, everything you built, don't let him." Sungjoon's backhand was casual, brutal. The crack echoed. Minwoo's head snapped sideways, and he doubled over as much as the restraints allowed, arms curving protectively around his stomach, even bound. "Negotiations are non-negotiable," Sungjoon said mildly, as if he hadn't just struck a pregnant Omega. 72 hours. I'll send instructions." The feed cut to black. Silence strangled the war room. "We negotiate," his finance captain said finally. "Give him the southern ports by time." "We burn him alive," another snarled. "Scorched earth. Find that warehouse and—" "Enough!" Grandfather Kim's voice was weak but commanding. The stroke 6 months ago had aged him decades, confined him to a wheelchair that matched Sungjoon's in grim irony. But his eyes were still sharp. "No alpha surrenders. You find another way or you die trying. The moment you bend to this, you've lost everything anyway." Ji-hoon said nothing. Couldn't speak past the rage and terror warring in his throat. "I have a contact," he managed finally. "Someone who specializes in impossible extractions." 3 hours later, a man who'd never existed on any official record sat across from Ji-hoon in a secure room. Former CIA, current ghost, with a reputation for bringing people back from literal war zones. 3 possible locations, the man said, spreading surveillance photos across the table. "All former Kim properties you abandoned years ago. The Incheon shipyard, the Busan warehouse district, or the old industrial complex outside Daegu." He tapped each photo. "All death traps. He wants you to come. Probably has them rigged to hell. I don't care about traps. You should. Dead men don't save hostages." Ji-hoon's phone buzzed. His assistant's message. "Found something in your home office. Drawer." 20 minutes later, Ji-hoon sat alone in his penthouse. The one he'd kept for business purposes, sterile and empty without his family. In his hands, he held an ultrasound image he'd found tucked in Minwoo's desk drawer. 8 weeks, 2 days. The date was from last week. A tiny blob on grainy medical imaging, barely recognizable as human, but unmistakably there. Unmistakably his. The note attached was written in Minwoo's careful handwriting. "Surprise for tonight. I love you. We're going to be okay. Tonight." Minwoo had planned to tell him tonight at dinner. Had been carrying this secret, this joy, this terror for 2 weeks. Had been protecting it, nurturing it, probably agonizing over the perfect moment to share. And Ji-hoon had noticed nothing. He pressed the ultrasound image to his chest, over his heart, and felt something inside him break and reform simultaneously. Harder, sharper, more dangerous. "I'm coming," he whispered to the tiny life captured in black and white. "I'm burning the world down if I have to, but I'm coming. For both of you. For all 3 of you." His phone lit up with the investigator's preliminary timeline. 72 hours had already become 69. The countdown had begun. Day 3 of captivity, and Minwoo couldn't remember what food tasted like without nausea chasing it down. The pregnancy, 8 weeks, 2 days now, made everything harder. Morning sickness that lasted all day. Exhaustion that dragged at his bones. The constant, gnawing fear that stress would end this before it truly began. But fear, Minwoo was learning, could be sharpened into something useful. The warehouse was cold. Concrete floors, rusted metal beams, the smell of oil and decay. They'd moved him from the chair to a corner room with a cot and a bucket. Luxury accommodations for a hostage. Through the single high window, he could see nothing but gray sky. Sung-jun's wheelchair creaked as it rolled through the door for the daily visit. He came like clockwork, 9 a.m., 3 p.m., 9 p.m. Routine bred opportunity. You look pale. Sung-jun's concern was grotesque parody of care. The baby needs you strong. Hard to be strong on stale bread and water, Min-woo muttered, not meeting his eyes. Play the part. Broken. Defeated. Malleable. I'll have them bring soup. Sung-jun wheeled closer, reached out to touch Min-woo's face with scarred fingers. We could have been perfect, you know. If you'd just seen past Ji-hoon's wealth to what we actually had. Min-woo's stomach turned, but he forced himself not to recoil. What did we have? Understanding. Connection. Sung-jun's voice dropped to something almost vulnerable. I saw you. Really saw you. Not just a political pawn or a womb to carry heirs. You were supposed to be mine. The delusion was breathtaking. The drugs, the manipulation, the engineered affair. In Sung-jun's fractured mind, it had all been romance. Min-woo took a breath. Gambled. Maybe you're right. Sung-jun's eyes widened. What? Ji-hoon never appreciated me the way you did. The lies tasted like acid, but Min-woo forced them out, made his voice soft, uncertain. He was always working, always choosing the empire over me. You made time. You listened. Maybe this is fate. It was like watching a starving dog offered meat. Sung-jun's entire posture changed, desperate hunger replacing paranoid suspicion. Prison had isolated him completely. Even his own men feared him, kept their distance, obeyed out of terror rather than loyalty. Min-woo's fake sympathy was the first kindness he'd encountered in a year. You mean that? Sung-jun's hand found Min-woo's, grip too tight, too eager. I need time to process everything. Min-woo met his eyes, played the confusion, the fear, the reluctant possibility. Can I see Ji-woo? I need to prepare him. If you're going to be his father, he needs to adjust gently. The manipulation worked. 20 minutes later, Min-woo was led down a corridor, 17 steps, turn right, metal door on the left, to a small room where Ji-woo sat with a guard. Omega. His son launched into his arms, tiny body trembling. I've got you, baby. I've got you. Min-woo held him close, cataloging everything. The corridor layout. The exit signs. The guard rotations, 3 men, 8-hour shifts, pattern predictable. He lowered his voice to the sing-song cadence of their secret game, the nonsense language they'd invented during bedtime stories. To anyone listening, it sounded like a mother comforting her child. But Ji-woo understood. Appa is coming soon. When you see red light, close your eyes and count to 10. Can you do that for Omega? Ji-woo nodded against his chest, small fingers clutching Min-woo's shirt. Good boy. So brave. The bathroom visits provided the second piece. The guard stood outside but didn't watch, small mercy of privacy. Min-woo found it on day 2. A section of rusted pipe behind the toilet, part of the old plumbing, loose enough to work free with patience and bleeding fingers. He loosened it over days. Each bathroom trip, a few more turns. Until finally it came free, 2 feet of solid metal, heavy enough to do damage. He hid it in his waistband beneath the oversized shirt they'd given him, the cold metal pressing against his back like a promise. Pregnant and weaponized. Day 4, Sung-jun's proposal came wrapped in delusion. When this is over, when Ji-hoon is broken and neutralized, you'll bond with me. We'll raise the boys together, Ji-woo and your new baby. I'll forgive your past. We'll start fresh. Min-woo wanted to vomit. Instead, he looked up through his lashes, vulnerability calculated. Prove you're better than him. Show me mercy. Let me walk outside just for 5 minutes. Please. The baby needs fresh air. Not yet. Too risky. But Sung-jun leaned in, and Min-woo forced himself to stay still as those ruined lips pressed against his. Bao rose. Min-woo swallowed it, made himself kiss back, gentle and hesitant like someone considering possibilities instead of plotting murder. When Sung-jun finally left, satisfied, hopeful, deluded, Min-woo collapsed onto the cot and let the trembling take him. Night fell. The warehouse settled into silence broken only by distant guard conversations and the creak of settling metal. Min-woo lay curled on his side, one hand pressed to his stomach where the baby grew, barely a presence but already everything. Your Appa is an alpha, he whispered to the life inside him. Strong, powerful, terrifying when he needs to be. But your Omega parent. His fingers found the hidden pipe, cold and solid. I'm learning to be a survivor. I've been a victim, a pawn, someone who needed saving. Not anymore. Through the high window, stars appeared in the dark sky. Somewhere out there, Ji-hoon was coming. Min-woo knew it with bone-deep certainty. But he wouldn't wait passively to be rescued. We're getting out. Min-woo promised the tiny cluster of cells that would become his daughter. I'm getting us out. And when your Appa arrives, he's going to find we've already started saving ourselves. The pipe pressed cold against his spine. 60 hours remained. Min-woo had a plan. 48 hours without sleep carved Ji-hoon's face into something inhuman. Black coffee and rage sustained him now. His alpha biology pushed past normal limits into territory that should have killed him. The interrogation room beneath his headquarters reeked of blood and fear. The man zip-tied to the chair had been Sung-jun's logistics coordinator. Past tense. Ji-hoon had personally broken 3 of his fingers. Last chance, Ji-hoon said quietly, pliers in hand. Where is he holding them? I don't, please. I just handled supplies. The 4th finger snapped. The scream was satisfying. Incheon. The man sobbed. The old shipyard. The one you abandoned 5 years ago. He's got 20 men, explosives rigged throughout. It's a fucking fortress, please. Ji-hoon shot him between the eyes. No witnesses. No mercy. By dawn, his war room looked like something from a military campaign. Ji-hoon had called in every favor accumulated over a decade of ruling Seoul's underworld. Mercenaries who'd worked Fallujah. Ex-military specialists in urban warfare. Even rival families who owed blood debts appeared. The Choi patriarch bringing 10 of his best men. For your Omega, the old man said simply. What was done to him? No one deserves that twice. Grandfather Kim arrived in his wheelchair, an ornate wooden box on his lap. His hands trembled as he opened it, revealing weapons that shouldn't exist, military-grade hardware from the Korean War, preserved perfectly, illegal as hell. Your grandmother made me promise this stays buried. The old man's voice was weak but steady. But family is worth any sin. Bring them home, boy. Or die trying. The plan crystallized. Main assault force hits the front, loud, explosive, drawing all attention. Stealth team flanks from the water side for extraction. And Ji-hoon. I'm going through the sewers, he announced, studying blueprints of the old shipyard's underground infrastructure. Alone. That's suicide, his second protested. That's an alpha saving his Omega. Ji-hoon's tone brooked no argument. I started this by failing to protect them. I finish it by bringing them home myself. Inside the shipyard, Min-woo's ears caught fragments of guard radio chatter. Assault expected, tonight, full tactical response authorized. Tonight. Ji-hoon was coming tonight. Min-woo's hands found the hidden pipe beneath his shirt, mind racing through the memorized layout. He'd positioned Ji-woo's sleeping area near the eastern corridor, closest to the water exit. The moment chaos erupted, he'd grab his son and run. When Appa comes, Min-woo whispered to the sleeping toddler, you run to him. Don't look back. Don't wait for me. Promise. Ji-woo's sleepy nod broke his heart. But Sung-jun's paranoia was nuclear level. At 6 p.m., 1 hour before the assault, he burst into Min-woo's room, eyes wild. You're too calm. Something's wrong. His scarred face twisted. Move him. The kill room. Now. They dragged Min-woo through corridors, Ji-woo screaming behind them, to a concrete room lined with cameras. Professional broadcasting equipment. A chair bolted to the floor in the center, spotlight positioned for maximum theatrical impact. Insurance policy, Sung-jun explained, almost manic. Seoul's underworld is watching. If Ji-hoon attacks, they watch you die. If he surrenders, they watch an alpha kneel. Either way, I win. The cameras went live at 6:30. Sung-jun's ruined voice addressed the streaming audience. In 1 hour, watch an alpha lose everything. Or watch him kneel. Place your bets, gentlemen. Min-woo's wrists were bound. The spotlight blinded him. But he kept his spine straight, chin up, eyes defiant even as terror clawed his throat. His hand pressed protectively over the small swell of his belly. In a tactical van 3 blocks from the shipyard, Ji-hoon watched the live stream on a tablet. Saw his Omega bound and backlit like a sacrifice. Saw the pregnancy that showed more prominently now at 8 weeks. Saw the fear Min-woo tried desperately to hide. 53 minutes until Sung-jun's deadline. Ji-hoon's voice cut through the team's final preparations. Dead calm in the way that preceded apocalyptic violence. All teams execute. No prisoners. Burn it all. The war began. The first explosion lit the night sky orange. Ji-hoon's main assault force hit the shipyard's north entrance with rocket-propelled grenades, turning reinforced gates into shrapnel and flame. Automatic gunfire erupted, a symphony of violence that echoed across Incheon's industrial district. Inside the kill room, Min-woo's heart hammered against his ribs. The cameras captured everything: his bound wrists, his pregnant belly, the fear he could no longer hide. Sung-jun's wheelchair rolled into frame, phone in hand, face twisted with rage and desperation. "You forced my hand, Ji-hoon," he screamed at the cameras. "I gave you a choice." His finger hovered over the phone screen. "One press. That's all it would take." "This room is rigged," Sung-jun announced to both Min-woo and the streaming audience. "Nerve gas. Releases in 30 seconds if I'm killed or if my heart rate flatlines. Your Omega dies. Your baby dies. And the world watches." Min-woo's breath caught. The guard behind him shifted nervously, gun trained but hands shaking. 3 levels below, Ji-hoon crawled through sewage pipes that hadn't been maintained in a decade. The stench was overwhelming, water and worse soaking through his tactical gear. But his mind was crystalline, focused on the blueprint memorized down to the inch. He emerged into a maintenance corridor slick with mold. 2 guards patrolled ahead, flashlights cutting the darkness. Ji-hoon moved like shadow, throat strike on the first, knife to the kidney on the second. Both died silently, mechanically, efficiently. No mercy, no hesitation, just the cold mathematics of violence. Above, Min-woo heard the explosions getting closer. Gunfire rattled the walls. His guard turned toward the door, distracted for one crucial second. The hidden pipe was in Min-woo's hands before conscious thought. Pregnancy made him weak, nauseous, slow, but adrenaline was a hell of a drug. He swung with everything he had. The pipe connected with the guard's temple. Crack! The man dropped. Min-woo grabbed the fallen gun with trembling hands, used it to shoot through his zip tie restraints. His wrists burned. His stomach cramped. But he was free. In the eastern corridor, Ji-woo ran on toddler legs, following the path Min-woo had drilled into him through games and songs. "When you see red light, run to the water door." The emergency exit sign glowed crimson. Small hands pushed at the heavy door just as Ji-hoon's stealth team burst through from outside. "Package secured." The team leader shouted into his comm, "We have the child." Ji-hoon's response crackled through. "Get him out. Now. I'm going for Min-woo." The kill room door exploded inward. Ji-hoon stood framed in smoke and flickering emergency lights, covered in blood that wasn't his, eyes wild with alpha fury and desperate relief. He saw Min-woo, free, standing over an unconscious guard, bloody pipe in hand like some avenging angel, pregnant belly prominent and protected. "You came," Min-woo breathed. "Always." Sung-jun's voice crackled over the intercom, distorted and manic. "Touching reunion. But I'm not done. Choose, Ji-hoon, your Omega or your son. Gas releases in 30 seconds. The exits are rigged. You can only save one." The hiss of releasing gas began. Colorless, odorless, deadly. Min-woo didn't hesitate. "Take Ji-woo. Get him out. This baby and I will buy you time. Go!" He shoved Ji-hoon toward the door. Ji-hoon caught his wrist, yanked him back. "I don't leave you. Not ever again." His hands were already moving, ripping off his gas mask, forcing it over Min-woo's face despite the Omega's protests. "Ji-hoon, no. Trust me." Ji-hoon kissed him through the mask, hard and desperate. Then his fist slammed into the wall panel, triggering the building's ancient fire suppression system. Water exploded from overhead sprinklers. The kill room flooded in seconds, water pooling, rising, shorting out cameras and electronics in sparking bursts. The gas dispersed, diluted, rendered impotent. "No!" Sung-jun's scream echoed through failing speakers. Ji-hoon found him in a flooded corridor, wheelchair useless in ankle-deep water, but the beta had dragged himself upright using the walls. He held a knife, hands that had healed just enough to grip, to threaten, to kill. They collided in the middle of the hallway. No guns. No backup. Just 2 men who'd once been allies, now circling each other like animals. Sung-jun lunged. The knife slashed across Ji-hoon's ribs, drawing blood. Ji-hoon grabbed his wrist, twisted, but Sung-jun's prison-hardened desperation gave him strength beyond reason. "You took everything from me." Sung-jun screamed, driving the knife toward Ji-hoon's throat. The blade descended. Ji-hoon couldn't block it, arms pinned by Sung-jun's weight. The pipe drove through Sung-jun's shoulder from behind. Metal piercing flesh with a wet crunch. Min-woo stood behind him, gas mask askew, face streaming with water and tears and fury. "You don't touch my alpha." He yanked the pipe free. Sung-joon collapsed. Ji-hoon finished it, grabbed Sung-joon's legs, those already broken limbs, and broke them again. Methodically, thoroughly, until the man's screams dissolved into unconscious mercy. "Not dead," Ji-hoon panted. "Prison. Again. Forever this time." But Min-woo swayed, the adrenaline crash hitting like a freight train. Ji-hoon caught him before he fell, lifting him into his arms despite his own injuries. The shipyard groaned around them. Structural damage from the assault. Fire spreading. The whole place was coming down. Ji-hoon ran through smoke and flame, Min-woo cradled against his chest, one arm under his knees, one supporting his back, protecting the precious cargo of his pregnant Omega. "You're safe," Ji-hoon whispered as they burst into open air, sirens wailing, his team converging. "You're both safe. I've got you." Behind them, the shipyard collapsed in a roar of metal and fire. Min-woo's hand found Ji-hoon's face, bloodied and soot-stained. "Our son. Safe. Already at the hospital." Min-woo's eyes closed, tears of relief streaming. "Then we won." "We survived," Ji-hoon corrected, holding him tighter. "That's all that matters." Sterile white ceiling. The steady beep of monitors. Min-woo's eyes snapped open, panic flooding his system before consciousness fully returned. The baby, his hands flew to his stomach. "Ji-woo, where's?" "Right here." Ji-hoon materialized beside the hospital bed, face haggard but eyes gentle. His ribs were bandaged beneath a clean shirt, stitches visible along his jaw. Both safe. Ji-woo's sleeping in the next room with 4 guards. And this one, his hand covered Min-woo's on his belly, survived. But barely. The ultrasound tech was summoned immediately. Min-woo couldn't breathe as the wand pressed against his abdomen, cold gel spreading. Then, the rapid flutter of a heartbeat on the monitor. Still there. Still fighting. High-risk pregnancy now, the doctor said quietly. Extreme stress, physical trauma, dehydration. You need complete bed rest for at least 6 weeks, possibly longer. Any more complications, and we're looking at mandatory hospitalization for the duration. Min-woo nodded, tears streaming. Alive. Their daughter was alive. 2 floors down in a secure medical room designed for dangerous prisoners, Sung-joon lay handcuffed to a hospital bed. Both legs in casts. The shoulder wound from Min-woo's pipe attack freshly sutured. Face swollen from Ji-hoon's fists. Ji-hoon stood over him, expression carved from ice. "You should have killed me," Sung-joon rasped through broken teeth. "Should have finished it in that warehouse. Death is mercy." Ji-hoon's voice was conversational, almost pleasant. "You don't get mercy. You get to live in a supermax cell, 23 hours a day in solitary confinement, watching through prison bars as I raise your son calling me Appa. Watching him grow up knowing his biological father was a monster who tried to kill his family." Ji-hoon leaned closer. "And I've made sure every guard in that facility knows exactly what you did. Kidnapped a toddler. Threatened a pregnant Omega. Prison justice is brutal for child predators, Sung-joon. You'll learn that firsthand." Sung-joon's remaining defiance crumbled. "I loved you once. Like a brother. And I trusted you. We're both living with our mistakes now. The difference is I get to go home. Life sentence, no possibility of parole." The judge's gavel fell 3 weeks later with finality that echoed like closure. Back in the hospital, Min-woo's confession came through tears on the second night. "I was going to tell you. That night, I had the pregnancy test wrapped, reservations made. I wanted it to be perfect because last time was so broken, and this time was supposed to be right. Min-woo. And then I kept it secret for 2 more weeks and Sung-joon found out before you did, and I'm so sorry." Ji-hoon gathered him close, careful of the 4 lines and monitor leads. "The only secret I care about is how you managed to survive 3 days and protect our children. You're stronger than any alpha I know. Stronger than me. I'm not. You fought your guard pregnant. Freed yourself. Helped take down Sung-joon with a goddamn pipe while 8 weeks along." Ji-hoon pressed his forehead to Min-woo's. "You're everything. But survival had costs beyond physical." Ji-woo wouldn't let Min-woo out of his sight. The toddler screamed if Min-woo left the room, even for the bathroom. Nightmares about the bad man shattered their nights. His speech regressed to single words, clinging behavior that broke Min-woo's heart. The child psychologist was gentle but honest. Severe trauma response. He's 18 months old, too young to process what happened, but old enough to be permanently affected. Intensive family therapy. Consistent routines. security measures that help him feel safe. And time. Lots of time. They started therapy the day Min-woo was cleared for outings. All three of them in a room with soft toys and a patient therapist who taught Ji-woo that bad man gone forever, Appa keep safe. Ji-hoon's empire bore different scars. His second-in-command delivered the report with visible reluctance. 30% territory loss. Rival families moved during the chaos, claimed the southern ports and Busan warehouses. Half our remaining captains are demanding increased profit shares to stay loyal. We're bleeding money and influence. Ji-hoon stared at spreadsheets that represented decades of his grandfather's work, his own brutal consolidation, now fractured. Let them have it, he said finally. Sir, the territories. The ports. We keep Seoul, Incheon, and our core operations. Everything else. Not worth my family's safety. The surrender was strategic. Calculated. And it saved lives that endless gang war would have consumed. Grandfather Kim died on a Tuesday morning, peacefully in his sleep. Ji-hoon reached his bedside minutes too late, but the old man's final words were written in shaking script on a notepad. You chose family over empire. That's how I know you'll lead better than I did. Proud of you, boy. The funeral was enormous. Every major family in Seoul's underworld paying respects to the man who'd unified them all. Ji-hoon stood in traditional mourning attire, accepting condolences with stoic grace. Above, in the penthouse they'd returned to temporarily for security, Min-woo stood at the window holding Ji-woo. His belly had rounded more noticeably at 12 weeks now, the high-risk pregnancy proceeding cautiously forward. He watched his alpha accept the burden of leadership, surrounded by dangerous men offering dangerous alliances. Ji-woo pressed his face into Min-woo's neck, still frightened of crowds and noise. We survived, Min-woo whispered to his son, to his unborn daughter, to himself. His hand found the slight swell where new life grew despite everything. But at what cost? Below, Ji-hoon looked up at the window. Their eyes met across the distance. The cost was everything they'd been. The question was who they'd become. 3 months painted autumn across Seoul, but Min-woo barely noticed. The penthouse had become his entire world, fortified, monitored, safe. 5 months pregnant now, his belly prominent enough that strangers would smile and offer congratulations if he ever encountered strangers, which he didn't, because the thought of leaving made his chest constrict until breathing became impossible. The therapist called it agoraphobia with PTSD complications. Min-woo called it survival instinct. The outside world tried to kill you twice, Dr. Kong said gently during their video sessions. Your mind is protecting you the only way it knows how. But protection becomes prison if we let it. Min-woo flinched at a car horn 17 floors below. His hands found his belly automatically, protective, constant. The baby, their daughter, though they didn't know yet, kicked against his palm like reassurance. Ji-hoon worked from home now, corporate empire managed entirely through screens and conference calls. He'd converted the second bedroom into an office, but spent most of his time watching security feeds, checking door locks, inventory of panic room supplies updated obsessively. He barely slept. The circles under his eyes had become permanent. You need to eat more protein, Ji-hoon said at breakfast, pushing a plate of eggs toward Min-woo. The baby needs. I know what the baby needs. Min-woo's voice was sharper than intended. Ji-hoon's jaw tightened. I'm trying to help. You're suffocating me. The words exploded out before Min-woo could stop them. I survived hell, Ji-hoon. I fought armed men while pregnant. I don't need a warden, I need my husband. I'm protecting you. You're smothering me. Min-woo stood, belly making the movement awkward. I can't breathe in this place. You watch me constantly, question everything I eat, monitor my sleep, check my phone. Because you almost died. Ji-hoon's roar made Min-woo flinch, which made Ji-hoon's face crumble with guilt, which made everything worse. Both of you almost died because I didn't protect you well enough the first time. And wrapping me in bubble wrap won't change that. Silence crashed between them, heavy and jagged. Ji-woo started crying from his playroom, frightened by the raised voices. They both moved toward him, then stopped, then moved again in awkward synchronization that would have been funny if it wasn't so broken. Dr. Kong made them sit across from each other in the next session, not touching, forced to articulate instead of assume. Ji-hoon, what are you afraid of? His hands clenched. That I'll fail again. That I'll be working or sleeping or looking the wrong direction and someone will take them. That I'll lose everything that matters because I'm not vigilant enough, strong enough, fast enough. Min-woo. Min-woo's voice cracked. I'm terrified I'll never feel safe again. That the panic will be permanent. That our daughter will be born into a world where her Omega parent can't even take him to the park without dissolving into hyperventilating terror. They looked at each other then, really looked, and saw matching devastation. You're both trying to control the uncontrollable, Dr. Kong said quietly. Trauma makes us feel powerless, so we grasp for any illusion of control. But you're grasping so hard you're hurting each other. The compromise came slowly. Gradual exposure therapy with Ji-hoon as safety anchor. First, the building's rooftop garden. Just 10 minutes, Ji-hoon's hand in his, for guards discreetly positioned. Min-woo's heart hammered, but he breathed through it. Let the sun touch his face for the first time in months. Then the park 2 blocks away. Then the cafe where they'd had their first real conversation after the arranged marriage became something more. Small steps. Painful steps. But steps forward. Ji-woo started preschool. A facility that cost more than most people's mortgages, with security that rivaled government installations. He came home with finger paintings and stories about his friend Miho. Laughter returning to their home like spring after nuclear winter. Hero Appa picked me up, he announced proudly, and Ji-hoon's eyes went suspiciously bright. But intimacy remained fractured. They slept with Ji-woo between them, both too afraid to initiate, too raw to risk rejection. Min-woo couldn't look at his own body without remembering Sung-joon's hands on his stomach, his violating touch. Ji-hoon couldn't touch without remembering how close he'd come to losing everything. The 5-month checkup changed something. The ultrasound tech smiled, angling the screen. Would you like to know the sex? Yes, they said in unison. It's a girl. Min-woo broke. Months of held-back emotion flooded out in ugly, gasping sobs. A daughter. A little girl who would carry none of the trauma that birthed her, who would grow up loved and safe and whole. Ji-hoon held him in the parking lot, both of them crying, the walls finally crumbling. That night, Ji-woo asleep in his own room finally, they faced each other in bed like terrified teenagers. I'm scared, Min-woo whispered. Me too. But Ji-hoon's hand found Min-woo's face, thumb brushing away tears. And Min-woo leaned into the touch instead of away. And somehow they found each other again. Gentle, healing, terrified and tender, relearning the geography of bodies that had survived the unsurvivable. Afterward, Ji-hoon pressed his lips to Min-woo's rounded belly, their daughter kicking against his mouth like hello. You're Appa and I? Ji-hoon whispered to the life growing inside. We're learning to live again. And you, little one, you're proof we're stronger than our worst moments. Min-woo's fingers tangled in Ji-hoon's hair, holding him close, holding them all together. Outside, Seoul glittered with a million lights. Inside, they were finally learning to stop just surviving and start living. 6 months pregnant transformed Min-woo into something simultaneously vulnerable and fierce. His belly was prominent now, impossible to hide, their daughter active enough that strangers could see the movements rippling across his maternity shirts. But he'd reclaimed pieces of himself, attending Ji-woo's preschool Halloween parade, grocery shopping with guards trailing discreetly, living instead of just surviving. The challenge arrived via formal courier on a Tuesday morning. Heavy cardstock, the Choi family crest embossed in gold. Ji-hoon read it twice, jaw tightening with each pass. What? Min-woo asked from the couch, one hand rubbing his lower back. The Choi Syndicate is making a move. They're claiming I'm domesticated and weak, demanding I surrender the southern ports voluntarily or face open war. Ji-hoon's voice was carefully controlled. They're betting I won't fight because it might endanger you and the children. Min-woo struggled to his feet, belly making balance precarious. Don't you dare give them anything because of me. I didn't survive Sung-joon to make you weak. You don't make me weak. Then prove it. Min-woo's eyes blazed. But do it smart. You're not the same alpha who ruled through fear alone anymore. Use that. Ji-hoon stared at his Omega. 6 months pregnant, still bearing the scar on his shoulder from the first nightmare, fierce and brilliant and absolutely right. I have an idea, Ji-hoon said slowly. But you're not going to like it. The summit was arranged for neutral ground. A luxury hotel's private conference room, security checked and triple-checked. Every major family in Seoul's underworld sent representatives. The Choi patriarch arrived with an entourage of 20, smile predatory. And Ji-hoon arrived with Min-woo. The pregnant Omega walked into that room of dangerous men wearing traditional hanbok modified for his condition. The fabric flowing over his belly, the scar on his shoulder deliberately visible where the collar dipped. His wedding ring caught the light. His chin was high. The Choi patriarch's smile curdled. This is your second? An Omega who spreads his legs for. Choose your next words very carefully. Ji-hoon's alpha command flooded the room, making even the strongest alphas present bare their necks instinctively. My Omega survived torture and saved my heir. Disrespect him, disrespect me. And I promise you won't enjoy the consequences. Silence gripped the room. Then Min-woo stepped forward, hand resting on his belly, voice clear and unwavering. I was drugged, kidnapped, and threatened with death while carrying this child. I held a rusted pipe as a weapon at 8 weeks pregnant and used it to help take down my captor. I protected my alpha's son when armed men surrounded me. His eyes swept the room, meeting each family head's gaze. I survived hell twice, once through manipulation, once through violence. Still think Omegas make alphas weak? Or perhaps you're confusing love with weakness because you've never experienced the former. The old-school Mafia leaders exchanged glances. One, the Kong family head, ancient and respected, actually smiled. The boy has teeth, he observed. I like that. The Choi patriarch's face mottled red. This is ridiculous. You bring a pregnant Omega to a summit and expect. I expect you to recognize strength when you see it, Ji-hoon cut in. Yes, I chose family over endless expansion. Yes, I consolidated territory instead of overextending. That's not weakness, that's strategy. My empire is leaner, more focused, more defensible. And I have something you don't. He looked at Min-woo. A partner who makes me better, not just a trophy who makes me look powerful. The Choi patriarch sneered. Touching. But sentiment doesn't win wars. Neither does overconfidence. Ji-hoon pulled out a folder, slid it across the table. That's intelligence on your weapons shipments, your encrypted communications, and the names of 3 of your captains who've already agreed to flip if war breaks out. I could have started this war already. Burned you to the ground while you were still planning. I chose negotiation instead. The room went very still. Here's my counteroffer, Ji-hoon continued. You keep your current territories. I keep mine. We establish a trade agreement for the southern ports. You get access, I get percentage. Everyone profits, no one bleeds. Or, his smile was all teeth. We go to war, and I systematically dismantle everything you've built while protecting my family in a fortress you'll never breach. Your choice. The Choi patriarch stared at the intelligence folder, at Min-woo's unflinching gaze, at Ji-hoon's controlled power. Perhaps, he said finally, voice tight, I underestimated the Kim family's resilience. Perhaps you did. The treaty was signed within an hour. Victory without bloodshed. Ji-hoon's empire consolidated through respect and strategy rather than fear and violence. 2 weeks later, Min-woo's water broke during a business dinner at home with allied families. Ji-hoon cleared the penthouse in under 3 minutes, called the midwife, and delivered his daughter himself with steady hands and whispered encouragement. Min-ji Kim entered the world screaming. Healthy lungs, perfect fingers, her mother's delicate features and her father's stubborn determination already evident in how she gripped Ji-hoon's thumb. My baby, Ji-woo whispered in wonder, aloud into the room an hour later, staring at his tiny sister with reverent awe. Your baby, Min-woo confirmed, exhausted and radiant. Your job is to protect her always. Like Hero Appa protects us? Exactly like that. The hospital room, they'd transferred for post-delivery monitoring, held their family of 4. Ji-hoon cradled Min-ji, her impossibly small body tucked against his chest. Ji-woo curled against Min-woo's side, one hand resting on his Omega's stomach where his sister had been. Min-woo's hand found Ji-hoon's, fingers interlacing around their daughter. They'd been broken. Shattered by betrayal, by violence, by trauma that should have destroyed them. They'd been rebuilt. Piece by painful piece, through therapy and patience, and choosing each other every single day. And somehow, impossibly, they were more than they'd been before. Stronger. Wiser. Whole in ways that had nothing to do with being undamaged and everything to do with surviving together. Min-ji yawned, a tiny sound that held their entire future. Outside, Seoul glittered. Inside, they were finally truly home. Appa, look. Min-ji walking. Ji-woo's excited shriek echoed through the penthouse as his baby sister took 3 wobbling steps before collapsing onto her diapered bottom with a giggle. Min-woo looked up from his design tablet, heart swelling as he watched his 3-year-old son clap encouragement. 1 year had passed since Min-ji's birth, and somehow their fractured family had become whole. His home studio hummed with quiet activity. 5 employees working on client projects while he managed everything from the converted guest wing. Ji-hoon emerged from his office, loosening his tie exactly at 6 p.m. like clockwork. No more late nights. No more empire before family. 5 years, Minwoo said softly that evening after the children were asleep. 5 years since our parents signed those contracts. 5 years since I got the greatest gift I never knew I needed. Ji-hoon pulled him close. Marry me again? The private ceremony happened in their penthouse garden. Just them and an officiant. Minwoo wore white, Ji-hoon wore black, and their scars, visible and invisible, bore witness. I vow to never let empire matter more than you, Ji-hoon said, voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. To protect without controlling. To love without possession. Minwoo's hands trembled holding Ji-hoon's. I vow to trust you with my fears. To stand beside you, not behind you. To forgive us both for being imperfect. They kissed as husband and husband, again, choosing each other deliberately this time. 2 days later, Minwoo stood outside Supermax prison, Ji-hoon's hand warm in his. You don't have to do this, Ji-hoon murmured. I need to. Minwoo squared his shoulders. For closure. Sung-joon was a shell. Prison orange hung off his gaunt frame, scars crisscrossing his face from attacks the guards had conveniently missed. Solitary confinement had broken what violence couldn't. He didn't look up when they entered, just stared at the metal table with hollow eyes. Does he call you Appa? Sung-joon's voice was barely a whisper. Ji-woo. Does he? Minwoo felt Ji-hoon tense beside him, but answered calmly. He calls Ji-hoon Appa. Because that's who raised him. Biology means nothing without love. Sung-joon's face crumpled. Tears streaked down his weathered cheeks as sobs racked his thin frame. They walked away to the sound of his breaking. I almost feel sorry for him, Minwoo admitted in the car. Don't. Ji-hoon's voice was firm. He chose his path. The Lee family reconciliation came unexpectedly. Minwoo's parents appeared at the penthouse door, older and humbler, carrying gifts for grandchildren they'd never met. We were wrong, his mother said, voice cracking. So wrong. Please, Minwoo. Let us know them. Minwoo stood in the doorway, Ji-hoon's supportive presence behind him, and felt the old shame try to resurface. Then he remembered the pipe in his hands, the pregnancy he'd protected, the hell he'd survived. You can be in their lives, he said quietly. But you'll never make me feel ashamed again. I survived hell. Your judgment means nothing now. His mother sobbed. His father bowed deeply. They would earn their place slowly. Life settled into beautiful normalcy. Preschool pickups where Ji-woo ran to him shouting, Omega Pa. Family dinners with Min-ji in her high chair throwing food. Ji-hoon's strict 6 p.m. work cutoff. Sunday park visits with invisible but ever-present security watching from benches and trees. Minwoo's scar had faded to a thin silver line on his shoulder, but sometimes he'd catch himself touching it, remembering. The news broke on a Tuesday morning. Sung-joon found dead in his cell, bedsheet noose, a note in shaky handwriting. I'm sorry. Tell Ji-woo I'm sorry. Minwoo cried, and Ji-hoon held him on their bedroom floor while the children napped. I'm not crying for him, Minwoo whispered. I'm crying for the waste. All that pain, all that destruction, and for what? It's over. Ji-hoon pressed his forehead to Minwoo's. Truly over now. 3 weeks later, they stood on a beach, their first time since everything. Min-ji toddled through sand, shrieking with delight. Ji-woo built an elaborate castle, tongue poking out in concentration. Minwoo and Ji-hoon walked hand in hand along the shore, waves lapping at their bare feet. Do you ever regret it? Ji-hoon asked quietly. All of this, the pain, the trauma, staying with me? Minwoo stopped, turning to face his alpha, his husband, his choice. The setting sun painted them in gold and orange, and he could see every line of worry on Ji-hoon's face. Every scar I carry tells the story of surviving, Minwoo said, placing Ji-hoon's hand over the faded mark on his shoulder. And I survived to be here. With you. With them. So no. Never. Appa. Omega Pa. Look. Ji-woo ran toward them, hands full of shells, Min-ji giggling as she tried to keep up on unsteady legs. They caught their children, lifting them high as the sun sank lower. Minwoo leaned against Ji-hoon's chest, feeling his heartbeat strong and steady beneath his palm. Their wedding rings caught the dying light, twin promises renewed. They say what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, Minwoo thought, watching his family silhouetted against the orange sky. But strength isn't about surviving pain. It's about choosing love after pain tried to destroy you. We chose each other. Every single day. And that's our real happy ending. The waves rolled in, washing away footprints, leaving only the future ahead. The end.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the story, tell us your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell for more stories.